ARC Rochester, and happening tonight, fans of thrash metal will be celebrating the heavy metal genre with some of its pioneers. They're former members of Megadeth, now called the Kings of Thrash, playing tonight at Photo City Music Hall. Longtime Megadeth bass player and Grammy winner Dave Ellefson and guitarist Jeff Young are with us this morning. We also have executive producer Mike DiGiorgio, who knows the music very well. We asked him to sit in, and he's been kind of geeking out, being fully transparent, geeking out all morning about this.
You hold me back, Abby, before I get too nerdy in my questions.
All right, well, we'll start off easy. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Our pleasure.
We appreciate
it.
You're
welcome.
You guys got here yesterday, went to House of Guitars, yes? And
always, yes.
Show tonight. Tell us a little bit about the show.
So show tonight. So we went back. Jeff and I played together. Dave Mustaine and I founded the group back in 1983. So I've been through Rochester a few times over the years, and Jeff and I were in the group together in 1987 and 88 and came through the area with Ronnie James Dio, and Jeff has been through here himself after that. So the whole point of Kings of Thrash is to go back and celebrate the earliest years of the Megadeth catalog, stuff from the, when we started touring through this area back in the 80s and the early 90s. So, our genre dubbed thrash metal by an English journalist. So that's what we do. We celebrate that and play a few covers. Our friend Ace Frehley just passed away from Kiss, so we do a little honorarium for him, and just fun things like that.
That's what I wanted to ask. For people who don't know, if you know a Megadeth song, Dave Ellefson is on it, by the way. He's on all the hits, absolutely. Yeah. Jeff did the one album with you, So Far So Good, So What.
Indeed.
How'd you guys find each other again after both being out of Megadeth at different times and neither of you there now?
We'd stayed in touch a bit over the years. There's the VH1 Behind the Music special that Jeff and I were in touch during that period. The former Megadeth drummer Nick Menza, who was in the group in the 90s, he had passed away, and we were doing a documentary movie together, and we got together over that. I guess that was early 2022, just kind of coming out of the pandemic. So Jeff and I were in that. I helped produce and narrate that film, and that actually just came out on Blu-ray, and it's on the Tubi and all this kind of stuff. So that's really what connected us. We went to there's a hot spot on the Sunset Strip called the Rainbow Bar and Grill, which was the hot spot back in the day, and we were just chatting music, and Jeff started humming me a riff that he had from 1988, and I went, I remember that riff. Next thing you know, we go in the studio, we start recording and writing some new music, and then at the Whiskey A Go-Go, Quiet Riot bass player Chuck Wright hosts an event called the Ultimate Jam Night, and they were doing some tributes to Ozzy and Randy Rhoads and things like that, and Jeff calls me up one day and goes, hey, they're doing a tribute to the Big Four, and the Big Four of thrash metal are Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. So he said, you want to come out and jam a couple tunes? So I flew out, we jammed a couple of tunes, and our singer, Chaz Leon, happened to be the singer that they chose. And he was actually has a Megadeth tribute band down in Orange County. So it just sort of fell together, and after we did it, the feeling was so great, we got to keep doing this. So that's what started Kings of Thrash. So sometimes the best things in life are just these random collision of moments that happen, and that was how we reconnected, and lo and behold, now we have a new band together.
There you go. And Jeff, for you, it's got to be nice, a walk down memory lane of sorts, but also creating these new memories. Talk about it.
Oh, well, for sure. The great thing is that a song is nostalgia, and there's always a memory. So we noticed that we're having the age range of people who actually saw us when we toured back in the late 80s, also bringing their children. So we're seeing generations of people coming out to listen to this music that, it's its own sound, its own style, and we're happy to celebrate that and keep thrash metal alive.
Back when the Big Four were doing their early recordings, you were aware of what all four were doing, probably.
Yeah.
Did you sense a link, like, all right, they're doing the same genre I am?
Well, I had a bit of a leg up because I had met Dave Mustaine about 6 weeks after he was out of Metallica. Ironically, Metallica was right here in your backyard recording their debut album, Kill 'Em All.
I was going to ask if you knew that.
Yes, of course. Oh, 100%. And a very interesting moment when that album showed up at the house me and Dave were living at, and we listened to that record because Dave wrote a handful of songs on that record. And that started our journey. And, I think what happened with Megadeth is I thought Dave had really progressed musically beyond even what he was doing in Metallica. Just kind of progressive style of music, and it's still thrash metal. And really, quite honestly, our songs were much slower. And one day a fan wrote a letter and said, "Hey, Dave, I hope your new band's faster than Metallica." Because being faster was like your sort of sign of strength, So next day we go to rehearsal that night and all of our songs sped up, like double speed, and then that helped create the thrash genre, quite honestly. So we were very closely connected. Dave, of course, knew the Anthrax guys because he was back here in the East Coast, before he left Metallica. So yeah, there's always this. Slayer were our backyard neighbors in Los Angeles. So we all knew each other, know each other. We've all remained friends over the years.
Very good. All right, so the show is tonight, 6:30, Photo City Music Hall. We're going to talk about ticketing information coming up because you guys are sticking around for another interview with us here in just a couple seconds. But, any advice for young musicians out there, looking at this interview and thinking, man, that could be me?
I'd say for sure start by learning to read music and find a great teacher in your town. That's what I did when I started playing guitar. I found a classical guitar teacher. I was really influenced by Van Halen and Randy Rhoads and Steve Howe from Yes, and all these players were incorporating classical guitar. So I started there and reading music. And I think, just continuous learning and always educating yourself, even if you learn just a little something each day.
Very good. And how about for you?
Well, you can be famous on YouTube and not even have a band these days, So that's the other way to do it. Or get a good TikTok channel.
Yep,
yeah.
that is a big one these days. All right, don't go anywhere. Our interview continues coming up on the other side of the break. We'll be right back.
First.
9:48. This one, camera 2. We're back now with the Kings of Thrash, former Megadeth members Dave Ellefson and Jeff Young. Executive producer Mike DiGiorgio is here now also. Mike, I'm going to let you start this one off.
In the day, thrash was the heaviest thing we'd ever heard, for sure.
Yeah.
How do you perceive heavy metal these days, which some of this stuff, the good news, my kid's a metalhead. The bad news, some of it I just cannot take. It reaches these screaming levels. How are you perceiving new metal these days?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I remember when we were on tour with Ronnie James Dio, who is an icon. This was 1988. Talking with him one day on tour, about how the next generation comes up. And our thrash metal was really heavy compared to what he was doing. You know, then the masked bands come out, Slipknot, these guys, you know, then there's Mudvayne and all this stuff. So that gets heavier and heavier. I think, you know, look, rock and roll has always been about pushing the limit, starting with Elvis. That's just the nature of what it's supposed to be. So it is. There's, you know, it's now, I remember seeing the Kiss reunion in 1996. Me and Marty Fridmann went down, and I was looking at it going, as heavy and dark and daunting as this was, and our parents didn't want us to listen to it, it was like family entertainment by then because of what had progressed past it. And probably thrash metal might be the same thing.
It happens every generation.
Our music's actually pretty melodic. It's heavy, but it's melodic. It's listenable, and you know so. I think that's just the nature of rock and roll. Is the young generations are always the creators, and they're always pushing the envelope a little farther.
And Dave, you mentioned Ace Frehley, who we just lost.
Yep.
You were also at the big Ozzy farewell show.
I was.
The big stadium thing.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Did you have much interaction with Ozzy at the time?
It was super cool. You know, I got to know Ozzy pretty well just as a friend, as a gentleman when Megadeth and Black Sabbath did a big tour across Latin America back in 2013. So it was great to see him, to say hello, to say goodbye, unfortunately. You know, we did our big group photo. And I think what was so interesting about it is that no matter the pedigree, whether it's Sammy Hagar, Steven Tyler, Metallica, a guy from Megadeth, whoever, everybody was just on this even playing field. You know, there was no, where's my dressing room, where's my limo, you know, and there was none of that. Everybody was just so chill and hanging out because I think, first of all, we were all fans of Black Sabbath. And really, Black Sabbath and that music, that was the star of the show, you know, of course, of which Ozzy was a member as well as his own solo career. But, you know, I think we knew his health wasn't great. So I think everybody came into it with this just very respectful mindset. And that just made for one of the greatest shows ever. You know, we were calling it Heavy Metal Summer Camp. You know, it was like Heavy Metal Live Aid, you know.
More trivia back in the day I'm going to throw at people of a certain generation. MTV News. Every hour, they would do the news breaks. MTV News, you hear it first. And there was your bass line from P-Cells in there. Did you guys get anything for being? No, we did. We got paid. Once an hour you were on MTV.
Yeah, we got paid. You know, I remember the first time we heard it in our band department. You know, we heard it one time, and we went, "Is that our song?" And then the next time they would alternate it with this little DJ scratch. So it's like, that must not have been us, you know. And then as we heard about it, like, oh my gosh, you guys are on like every hour hearing, you know, the P-Cells intro bass line. You know, the truth of it is we were on tour the whole time. I missed the whole thing. So I didn't even, you know, it's not like you're sitting around celebrating, hey, there we are again, you know. It's like we're out working and doing our thing, you know. So, you know, I got one funny story. I met the Goo Goo Dolls guys some years back, and, you know, we came through here with Megadeth and King Diamond. It was right before the P-Cells album came out, and we played the Penny Arcade. And John and Robbie, they were so excited to tell me. They said, we couldn't believe it. We went to the show as fans, and we ended up running the follow spot, the spotlight for King Diamond during the show. So, you know, tomorrow's star, you know, all of a sudden working in the business, you know, just coming as a fan and being a part of it all. And obviously they've had their huge success as well. So,
real quick, favorite Megadeth song that you guys did together?
I like Mary Jane.
You probably stole that one from me. I was going to say that one. I love that song. I think probably, you know, In My Darkest Hour was this very big song. Yeah, it was also part of it was the lead single off of the Decline of Western Civilization, the metal years. And that was kind of a good launch for that record, too, but especially being around that movie. And I think Megadeth was shown in a really good light inside of that film as well. Yeah.
Is there a least favorite song?
No, all the songs, they're like your children, and they're each their own movie. It's like its own ride in an amusement park, so we just take the ride and enjoy that. And the cool thing about, I think, with this style of music, and some people may be trepidatious at first, but in the end of the day, what thrash means, I looked it up when we started this band, it's really any genre of music that has fast passages. Right, so within our show, you're going to hear blues, rock, swing, jazz, classical, metal, all these styles, flamenco, world music. I was putting a lot of flamenco solos on that record, so within this context, it's really kind of world music, to be honest. And I think that's why we have such a diverse fan base.
Yeah, and I think you probably don't hear that often anymore in music when you look at, whatever the top 100 songs on the charts.
There was a benchmark we had when we started Megadeth is to write very epic-oriented music, stuff that could really be a soundtrack. If you closed your eyes, you could almost have a visual to it, and also stuff that was timeless. And I think the music has really stood the test of time. It doesn't sound dated. You don't go, oh yeah, there's something from the 80s, or oh yeah, that's something from the 90s. I think the Megadeth music, out of everybody in the thrash genre, I will go on record as saying, I think is probably the most timeless and will probably stand the test of time the most and be the most listened to by people that aren't even just metalheads.
Very cool.
Very good. Thank you both so much for your time today. We appreciate it. Certainly an honor. I know definitely.
Fantasy fulfilled. Thank you, guys.
For me as well. The show is at 6:30 tonight, Photo City Music Hall. Ticketing information will go over on foxrochester.com. When we come back, our final thoughts this Tuesday morning.